Okay, so we all know about Darwinism, right? Survival of the fittest. Absolutely. And when you have survival of the fittest, the ones that are deteriorating, malnourished, can't handle energy conversions, well, they get put down, literally and figuratively, psychologically, physiologically, biologically. And so the word put down or the term put down could mean, a euthanasia, or put down means insult and to spiritually destroy. Put down is actually very appropriate in all contexts, because that's what we do in our society, is that we revere a construct that is based on corporations making money off of looking a certain way, being a certain size, acting a certain way, believing in a certain way. And if you go outside the lines, then it is justified to be put down in all contexts. That's what we are evolving from, is the put downs because somebody can't handle an energy conversion. And I want to say that I don't put people down going through an energy conversion. I want them to go through the energy conversion. I don't want them to stop the energy conversion. I want them to live. And so while someone else may perceive my harshness around people who are dealing with pain is a put down and uncompassionate and not understanding, oh, I understand perfectly what you're going through. I've been there. And it may not be there as aggressive as you were, but I'll tell you, at my worst times, your daily life is my worst times. I know exactly what you went through. I wouldn't want to go through that daily, but that's why I was aggressive in feeding myself, pulling out the poop programming, resting, and not doing any more of the JJ world. Now you're going to see that I have people coming back on my page from my other pages, because I finally had access to that. Finally got access to that when I didn't before. For whatever reason, I couldn't tell you what happened. I mean, I could tell you, but I don't know really where it came from. I could speculate. And so a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I like the JJ, I like the JJ. Okay, well now at this point, you have to get off the JJ. Some of you have done the JJ a few times. You've done your waterfalls, okay, and you are emaciated, skinny, or have, diagnosable conditions. And the JJ world is not supposed to be used as a cure, okay? The JJ world is not supposed to be used as a cure, because what you're doing is you're trapping the competition in your body. And when you trap competition in the body, and there's nowhere to go, literally, there's nowhere to go because you have a closed immune system. It's like putting the Crips and the Bloods that will never find a way to assimilate together in a closed environment and let them fight to the death. And it will be all out annihilation. When you put two competing forces that want to be in charge on such a level, and they both are equally aggressive, they will annihilate each other. And then also annihilate the host. They will take down the house. You've seen it. You've seen two leaders fight for power. You've seen two groups together, and like the Crips and the Bloods, okay, like West Side Story, and they annihilate each other on some level. Even the Democrats and Republicans, they're annihilating each other, because look at the medical and the holistic system. They're going down the drain. Who's going down the drain? The customers. The customers are malnourished. The customers are going through surgeries. The customers are taking their prescription drugs. The customers are putting themselves and their children through medical trauma that when they finally wake up one day and want to become whole, they're going to have to go through what my dog is going through. Which actually last couple nights, I've been getting very little sleep. I would go to sleep for about a couple hours. She'd wake up around midnight and wake up with a start, like something inside of her woke up and was very active. So I could hear her breathing hard. I get her up, she goes and pees, and she's going back and forth, and then I poop her. She relaxes, I give her some food. Because when you release those demons out of your ass, that will give you some kind of relief. because stuff that's stuck in your body that the body isn't strong enough yet to push it out, you have to then help it push out until she's able to regain her autonomy. And so right now, me and Sugar are fighting that sister on her body. But she finally went to sleep around 1 or 2. And then I was able to get between 2 and 7. I got 5 hours of solid sleep. I woke up at 7. And she woke up with me. She didn't pee in the bathroom this time because she didn't want to pee. So I took her out, put her outside. Took her downstairs, put her outside. She peed outside. She's walking great. When I put her on the landing, she actually jumped off the step. But before, I would kind of help her go on the step. And so she's getting steadier on her feet, because what's going on right now with my dog, since she is dealing with competition in her body, and it's not trapped in there, it's just the war is on in her body. The war is on, and the only way you're going to lose that war if you stop feeding yourself, but stop feeding yourself the correct type of food. If you don't give the body the bioavailable nutrition for both the beta cells and for the alpha cells, then it'll be all out annihilation. One will overtake the other. And let me tell you, you can't just have the parent win when it comes to a host like a dog or a human. You can't just let the children win. They have to be able to work together, because a parent has to guide the children. When you let children run the country, then you have all-out anarchy, which is why anarchy is not optimal, because that's chaos, that's death, that's annihilation. So that's why there's a centralized government to kind of keep the order. So you have to understand that you don't want to have the children run the country, and you don't want just the parents who are dinosaurs running the country. You want to have a little bit of both evolution and wisdom. Evolution and wisdom must work hand in hand. That's why it takes a good parent to raise a very awesome child who will then prolong their life and not die in the system. Like, seriously, that's what it's going to take in this world if we want to see some kind of evolution. So there's going to be a segment of our society that's going to die and reproduce, and we thank them for their service, but we don't necessarily take any kind of recommendations when it comes to life, because they're on a death trajectory. They were bred purely to do their job, whatever it is, pass away and pass on those characteristics to their offspring, assuming their offspring can survive the next evolution. And some people will surpass that. Some people will still do their job, and they'll take time to recoup the resources lost the last 40, 50 years. They'll leave the limelight and nurse themselves back to health, to this new environment, and they'll reemerge again with the new lease on life. There's those types of people that will also be in the world that you'll never know who they are, because people don't wear their beliefs on their sleeve unless they're in their politics, religion, and scientific dogmas following an influencer. But even the JJ world doesn't have like an insignia. We don't have like a badge of honor. We don't have flair. I'm not doing any flair, because the JJ world is very controversial, and it's a private thing. Okay? And the only one people that know that you might be doing the JJ world are those in your immediate circle that know that you're going through the hell of evolution, and that you're still willing to face it and not try to anesthetize yourself or surgically take something out. And so my dog right now is going through a competition in her body, and I have to keep feeding it. And I'm telling you, it's really quite interesting, because when I pooped her last night, and because she was not relaxing, she finally went back to sleep. Because, I was power feeding her. Now she's eating a lot more. So I'm now reevaluating my routine. I'm adjusting my routine to fit the situation. So I had to order more dog food. Okay, so more of the soft food that I could put in a blender. Because I still use some of her kibble in the blender, but that's not enough. I don't want to have just the grainy stuff, which has the carbs in it. But the high protein canned food from Pedigree is what I want, plus then the milk, and I have vegetables, and I have fruit, and also the omega-3s and the olive oil, and also in fish. And so and plus I even use half and half just to give her more fat. And I also have like trimmings or leftover fat from some steak that I made, or it was hamburger meat, to put also in her food. And so that has helped her get to the next level, and I'm leaving her cyst alone. I'm not even trying to soak it in salt water or anything like that. It has to scab up. It has to go through that process. And so what happens is that when it scabs up, like it is, like you see, where is there a scab? Because of all the surgical trauma that's coming back to life. That was never dealt with correctly way back when she had that surgery for a spay for tumor removal and aspirations. And so the scab is very deep, and her body releases through the back end. It can't, and also, but also if the scab becomes so much that it's protruding so much, it'll eventually fall off. It'll fall off in layers. Okay, but it must be given the arsenal to go through that energy conversion, to go through that war. And what happens is that people are so malnourished, their children are malnourished, not getting enough nutrients in because people are afraid of, oh gosh, this is poison, that's fattening, that's this. And that's why I kicked everybody off that can't handle food, that's boisterous about it. But if you want to survive energy conversion, you have to feed the war. And it's like with your troops. You can't starve the troops out there that are going through their maneuvers. They have to have their MREs. I had MREs when I was in basic training, and it was so thick and so lacking of water in those MREs. I didn't poop for a week. But they made us drink like 3 glasses of water before all of our meals, because it was so hot in Texas at Lackland Air Force Base that they didn't want anyone falling out because of dehydration. So they made us drink a few glasses of water. I think it was 3 glasses of water before every meal. So we had at least 6 glasses of water a day, plus then anything else that we might have done in between meals. No, 9 glasses of water a day, because we had 3 meals a day. That's right. And then the MREs that we ate because we were doing the obstacle course. And we're eating in the field for lunch because we didn't go to the mess hall for lunch. I didn't poop for a week because that stuff was so heavy. And so that's how soldiers don't have to poop so much, and they're so energized because that glob of shit, fecal, that feces just stays stuck in their system, and it's what energizes them. But with my dog, I have to pull out the old programming because she has a lot of medical trauma and a lot of foreign invaders that are in that cyst that has to come out. That's the only way it's going to come out, is either through the layers of the scab falling off, and then her peeing a lot, because her pee actually smells really interesting, and then the pooping her out. And so that's why I'm power feeding her, because that's the only way that the foreign invaders are going to be carried out the body. That's the carrier force, carrying out the body. You're carrying in nutrients and carrying out all the invaders, all the pathogens. And what is like healthy or nice for for one person can be pathogenic to another person who may be very sensitive to the environment because they can't handle energy conversion. And so that's why we can't say across the board something is poison, because it's something that you think is poison to you is completely healthy for somebody else because you couldn't handle the energy conversion of that piece of food or that drink or that environment. And so we're definitely, in a psychological war and a biophysical war, yes, but it's mostly psychological, because people are denying themselves food because of how their politics are when it comes to meat, when it comes to animal-based products. They think that they can survive on plant-based products. And I'm going to say, I guess if you want to be a wilting lily, a wilting daffodil that can't handle climate change, fine. And a lot of people are living that lifestyle. And so let me read this so I can kind of get on track here, because I'm kind of going. So wild animals die because the competition is fierce. Competition isn't just fighting for your food and your environment. It's also your internal environment, which also has excessive amounts of competition if you don't release in the way that it's appropriate. And so domesticated animals die because the owners can't handle the energy conversion and do not understand it. In order to keep your animal alive, you must not only get rid of the competition without using surgeries or remedies, but you also must feed the animal bioavailable nutrition. So all the soldiers get fed, not just half the soldiers. And so then also they have to get, who's they? You, as well as your animal, have to get rid of the competition when it's accessible, not surgically or holistically. So I remember a couple days ago, like last week, she threw up like twice. I was power feeding her and it was more than she can handle, so she threw up. And it was all mucousy and some of it was blood. And then after that, she was fine. She ate more food and she was fine. And so sometimes throwing up, you may have things that are anomalous or extremely parasitic and infectious in the upper part of your digestive system that the system doesn't want it to go through, doesn't want that entity to go through the whole system to come out the back end. So then you need to have enough food and enough carrier force to then throw up the pathogens. And people are like freak out on that too. And so they try to stop the body from throwing up. And so the person has all of their defense mechanisms disabled because they're afraid of releasing. And so the body wants to throw up, but it can't because they've disabled that mechanism and they've psychologically stopped themselves from releasing, whether it's diarrhea or throwing up or sweating. The system has taught you to hold everything in. And so then what has no choice but to either fornicate and develop disease, or it turns into a new virus in the environment that you're releasing, or a baby, or cancer, or disease, or chronic illness. And so I'm allowing my dog to release when she needs to. Hey, Audrey Stewart. I'm allowing my dog to release. If she needs to throw up, she throws up. If she needs to poop, when I hear her fart, I immediately poop her. Because I know there's something in her system that needs to be released, and it's not like she's intellectually knowing that she has to go and take that out, and the stuff isn't solid enough for it to come out on its own because she's still going through her energy conversion from being, a juvenile to becoming mature. Then I have to help her express her anal glands, of which, the stuff does come out, and I help her, and she actually likes it because she knows that that's what is giving her a tummy ache, is the shit inside of her that isn't coming out because of the way her system is working out at this point until that cyst leaves the body, because that cyst is taking a lot of energy, strength, energy, and resources. And so I have to then step in and help mediate the situation until she releases that demon. Okay? People think that's crazy, but not really. It's what I've been doing to myself, and I look where I'm at. I've been extremely productive, getting smarter, even though some people will argue with that, which is fine. Clear-headed. I am not reacting adversely to the changes. Oh, I feel the heat. It's not like a crazy heat, but I know that there's an energy shift in the environment. I hear the ringing sometimes, not all the time, but I hear the ringing and I feel the energy shift. The evenings, like around 12 or 1 is when it's really aggressive. That's when she's up using the restroom or acting a little bit erratic. But people say, people think that my dog's in hospice. No, she's not in hospice. Because that's when then you segue over to what Jessica Alba in her bikini looks like. And she could be 84 years old. And then you have this geriatric person whose skin's sagging and losing, symmetry and all that stuff. And who you're going to put down first if they're suffering, it's the geriatric bikini, not Jessica Alba. But what if Jessica Alba had a big old cyst in the back of her, on her back, that she's carrying around in a pocketbook? Let's just pretend that's our new world. When you're trying to convert to the new environment, you have this big large cyst that's contained, that you have to put in your purse and hide the little cord because people are like, what the hell, right? And then maybe certain days you might feel a little, under the weather. Because I'll tell you, if you were in pain all the time and you were really skinny, you wouldn't survive, because that's a lot of energy conversion, a lot of energy being used up. And so even animals and humans, intelligent humans who are dealing with domestic animals, they have to understand thermodynamics. And so the body, if the body is fed, then it will go through a painful energy conversion because it has the energy to do it. And the intelligence of the body knows that the entity can handle it, and the entity knows that it's being well supported. But remember when sugar was back, some of you do, some of you don't, but back in November when she was going through that energy conversion and she was losing massive amounts of weight, she wasn't in pain, but she was losing a lot of weight. She was uncharacteristically going into the tub, climbing into the tub when she wouldn't before, but she wasn't in pain. Okay? It's when I added the food and power fed her and all of that, then that's when her cyst started growing, which is retroactive evolution, cellular retribution, because that was the surgical trauma that was never dealt with correctly, that the body finally was able to deal with correctly, and it had to go and compensate, overcompensate for the situation. And so when the body knows that it's going to get food on a continuous basis, it's going to get the release process, it's going to allow certain times of the day go through more energy than not, because if she was in, if the body wanted to heal that quickly, then the energy in the environment would have to be that aggressive. Okay, so you have to look at not only the body has its own internal environment, but you're also in an internal environment that has frequencies that when they are raised a certain level, it then influences the internal environment inside the animal. And some of this is in my book and in not so many words, but it is in so many words. They're all dealing with different environments. And so the environment out here is aggressive. And then I calibrate because my body goes through an energy conversion. I blow my nose, sneeze, poop, whatever. And then I'm now fine. I'm on relative equilibrium. And so then I'm not in pain. What someone would think like blowing my nose is painful. But she goes through those energy conversions when the frequencies in the environment go through it, as well as her body going through it. Like when I feed her, she's going through an energy conversion. When she gets pooped out, she goes through an energy conversion. When she pees, she goes through an energy conversion. When she walks around, she goes through an energy conversion. And some are more aggressive than others. And so the only time that she's really in pain is really overnight, in the middle of the night when the frequencies are a bit more erratic. Because obviously if the frequencies were relatively stable, we wouldn't have all these people with different diseases coming up, because we would have been like prior to climate change. Climate change means that the energy in the environment is unstable and it's erratic, and you're going to have to adjust to it maybe every hour, every day, every weekend, whenever it changes. That's called evolution, is dealing with energy conversions. And they could be, 4 times a year because of cold and flu season and allergy season and all that. Or it could be right now, every weekend, when the energy shifts, your evolution and your hydra wake up and shift. And so right now my dog is sleeping peacefully. And she has the weight on her to go through any necessary energy conversion that will happen in the middle of the night. So during the day, I'm power feeding her, pooping her, power feeding, pooping her. And then overnight, when the energy is that erratic, she has enough substance to handle that energy conversion. And then I'm up with her, helping her poop out if she needs to. I'm up with her, helping her get off the bed. This is my life, and that's fine, because I understand it. And I told you guys, overnight is when people are going to die, or they're going to reproduce themselves or pass away. One of the two. People have either get heart attacks at night, they get strokes at night, or they die in their sleep at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, the witching hours, when the microbes, the competition in your body, are the most active. That's when it's king of the mountain inside the body, is overnight. That's why parents who have kids or babies, they try to keep their kids, relatively peaceful at night, but they're awake wanting to eat. They're awake needing to have their diapers changed. They could be crying because they could be colicky, which could really be nightmarish for some parents. And so the night is when a lot of the activity happened. And so when did we finally get sleep? When it's 2 a.m. to about 7. It was a dead sleep for both of us, because her and I woke up at the same time. And so I know when I get tired around 10, I know I'm going to be up around midnight. And between midnight and 3 is when I'm up with my dog, feeding her, helping her, get off the bed, up and down. She's walking around, pooping her if I need to, so she can relax, so those demons aren't torturing her. And that's the thing. So, domesticated animals die because the owners can't handle the energy conversion and do not understand it. And I totally understand the people's perception and how they deal with their animals. Because we have been bred that life is expendable. Life is only good when it's staying with the programming that we expect. As soon as an animal or a human become uncharacteristic or have to deal with an energy conversion, we immediately anesthetize, put down, and medicate our children, our animals, and also use the therapies. And so it's not a coincidence that those that are calling the ASPCA and the Humane Society and calling all the authorities on me are also very dependent on the V's, very dependent on medication, very dependent on the medical, holistic, allopathic, surgical system. And then they think that everyone else should be dependent too. And that's our society, is that because you can't do it or because you're doing it, everyone else should be doing it or should not be doing whatever it is that you're saying that someone should or should not do. And that's a very narcissistic, but also a extremely selfish way of dealing with the world. And I've been that way too. I think people should handle pain. Everybody can. Okay, well, if you can't handle pain and you have to turn to the medical holistic system, then I hope you can find a way to transition. And I hope you can build the capacity to deal with pain so you don't have to turn to the medical or the holistic system. And so not everybody can, I can handle vast amounts of pain and fear. It took many years of conditioning, at least 40 something years. I'll be 49 in February. My dog will be 12 in February. Okay? But I've had so many years of conditioning, of fear, of controversy, of pain, biological pain, physical. I remember when I was a kid and I had a lot of stomach issues and I would be curled up on my on my floor, just going through the pains. It was early morning. My parents were asleep. The doors were closed, because that's how we did it in the morning. And I'd just be like with my butt up in the air, just, my stomach was hurting, I had to deal with it. There was nothing really anyone could do but just deal with it. Okay. And so, and even with the PMDD, since I decided not to be on Prozac and be a zombie, I decided to deal with the fluctuations. I knew that 2 weeks I would be, kicking ass and taking names and doing amazing and breaking records and doing this. And 2 weeks I'd be like back down to square one as if I never did that. And that was the hardest way to be, because people were like, whoa, you are so awesome for 2 weeks. And man, the 2 or so weeks you're declining and you're regressing and you're becoming this and that and irritable. And I'm like, yeah, and that tortured me for years. So that's why I eventually had to be on my own and either develop my own cold calling business or work as, an independent contractor. Same thing. Okay, so, I found ways to compensate and to assimilate with my situation, but that's hard. That's a hard way to be when everyone's under medication or have taken organs out so they don't feel any evolution and they have enough life force to carry them through for a certain amount of time until they either die suddenly or develop a really aggressive condition that they can't come back from, and then they leave their industry because they are dealing with now an autoimmune disorder. And so that's a lot of the population. I see it. Some of them contract their autoimmune disorder when they're 30, others when they're in their late 40s, and then they have to go and reevaluate. Others now are like in their 20s and teens, and now it's children who are developing conditions because of the heritable diseases that they got from their parents, as well as the environment. And then, of course, all the therapies and the remedies in the holistic world trapping the competition within. So don't think that because you got away from the V's and the allopathic that turning to the remedies and even turning to jade juice is going to help you. No, because you have competition trapped in your body. You have damaged cells trapped in your body wanting to take resources. And if you are using jade juice to cure yourself so you don't feel anything, and you're using anything else as an anti-inflammatory to stop the body from releasing, like the prostaglandin inhibitors, which is basically an anti-inflammatory, you're trapping those beasts within, and then they are fornicating, developing new variants as well as new diseases in your body, and also torturing you, and eventually will turn into cancer and a mass, or you will age aggressively fast. That's why the holistic world is no different than the allopathic, and you have to know this. That's why those who are doing jade juice still today, when they've already done the waterfalls, which they need to now, finally just eat all food and the food supply, pull out the poop programming, understand their alimentary canal, and stop using aggressive elements to try to stop the pain. But can I tell people this? No, I can't tell them that, because who am I to say that they should be able to handle the pain? So the JJ world is built for almost every lifestyle and belief system, but it's not a cure. Though people have got to that point, but then, you know, cures are deadly, and eventually the breakthrough infection could destroy you because you've never conditioned yourself to release and condition yourself to handle the energy conversion. And so at some point you're going to have to expand your capacity, and some will and some won't. And who am I to say who should and who should not? I have nothing to say about other people's situations. They're going to have to figure out for themselves, which was why I don't do any kind of consultations or anything like that, because it's not for me to say for what you should be able to handle. Okay, so you will find that even the fierce animal activists have no problem putting anything down that doesn't look appropriate to them. They also can't handle the adversity of energy conversion, which is why many people turn to therapies in the medical holistic industry, because they can't handle energy conversion. Yeah. When you put on your Facebook, you're proud to be therapized, you already told the world you can't handle energy conversion and you need the help of the system to euthanize you when you don't feel like dealing with energy anymore. And that's the medical holistic system. It's a self-euthanasia. It's a self-euthanasia. And it's with your okay. And so if you can handle all energy conversion, then you wouldn't need anything in the holistic or allopathic therapies world, regardless of what it is. So even those that are vegetarian and vegan, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to put on some weight, and that means you're going to take on animal proteins, because you are what you eat. If you want to be a wilting flower that won't be able to handle climate change, because, you know, vegetation even changes in a very aggressive environment, but a cow is beefy. And then it's not, we don't just have the cow protein, so we're not just some, you know, aimless cow, but we also have other intelligent hydra from other animals in our environment, plus other microbes and insects and other biodiversity that has then caused the colony forming units of intelligence that has given us such a diverse way of doing things. It's given us, you know, law and order and politics, religion, and science. Okay. So it's not just that you're a cow because you ate a steak. No, you have a diverse microbe, 69 trillion microbes in your body. But if you're just eating plant-based proteins, where's the diversity? Again, you don't want to be a wilting flower. You want to have some kind of resilience like an animal, like a big, huge cow that can handle the rain and the cold and the heat. That's a pretty, you know, cows are resilient. And then the milk, you know, you get the amino acids and the fats and the vitamin D's and all that stuff in the milk. And you get the bacteria that you need in the milk when it's fermented, probiotics. Cows are amazing. But though, you know, Bill Gates is trying to find, you know, lab developed meat, because you really can't live on plant-based proteins in this aggressive environment and want to have a extremely strong society. Again, vegan and vegetarianism is for the privileged who could afford that activism, that political lifestyle, until they can't. Okay? And I know some of you are going to have a hard time with that. I'm sorry. So, animals and humans who might be malnourished or looking aggressively aged, okay. Animals and humans who might be malnourished, looking aggressively aged, as well as looking very youthful. So, yeah, you know, you could be malnourished and look aged and youthful. And so, who do we put down that is suffering? We put down the aged one. We don't put down the youthful looking people. That's our discrimination. That's how we have determined who deserves to live and who deserves to die, is by what they look like. Sugar. You want to get up? Walk around. Go ahead. Walk around. And so we literally put down the evolutionary and we save and destroy the cured who are aesthetically pleasing until they have to go through an energy conversion. And then people want to put them down literally and figuratively. And so, yeah, what if all these dogs and humans were the same age, but one of them was deteriorating from malnutrition and using the medical holistic. All right, I'm gonna let you sit on that for a minute and take her out. Wanna go outside? Come here, sugar. Come on. And she'll probably go up steps all by herself. Good girl. Woo. She went off the steps all by herself. Holy shit. And she's peeing. She told me she had to pee. Animals who are in hospice don't do that shit. So she's not in hospice. Walk around, but she does get caught up in corners sometimes because she's still run by juvenile cells. But that's the thing, is that I'm raising a puppy in an adult body. Okay, so anyways, so our society accepts euthanasia on people who don't look the way we want them to. And so regardless if they look beautiful, if they are 12 years old in dog years or 82 years in human years, going through an energy conversion, you don't believe they should live. And that's the thing, is that Sugar looks awesome. She looks great. She's carrying a fucking cyst. Okay. And she might have trouble doing all the things autonomously, but remember, she's going through a competition with a thing in her body, and it can't be removed anymore, or else she will die. And so people out there think that she should be put down. They think, oh, that she's suffering. No, they're suffering. But that's the thing. That's our world. That's the way our world has been for years. For years. Okay? For generations. For centuries. And now we're in a new world. And we're in a new energy conversion. And she has to deal with this cyst until the body goes through the process of scabbing up and releasing the demons. And when it scabs up, it also, the scabs do fall off over time, and the body also releases. That's why it's so important for you to understand your alimentary canal, so you can release the demons. Hi, sugar. Go ahead, go. Keep walking. So anyways, I'm going to go because I'm going to go feed my dog and all that stuff. But she peed, so every time she pees, I feed her, give her water, let her walk around. She'll go to nap for like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, get up, she pees, I feed her, let her walk around, and that's what it is until she lets the food dribble out of her mouth and she can't handle it. Oh, she's walking on her bed right now. I wonder what she's doing. Nope, she's gonna walk off the bed. So that's essentially what it is. That's what you have to do for yourself, but with your own routine, if you want to survive climate change, is you're gonna have to go through that process of feeding, eating, pulling out the poop. And I do that, actually. I do all of those things and deal with the fluctuations of feeling whatever feeling and acting a certain way and being, zombie-like on some level. But you're gonna have to go through this process if you want to survive climate change. And some of you have a lot more aggressive stuff in your system than others. But my worst was last summer. I hope that is your worst, because there's worse than that, which is what my dog's going through. But she's not suffering. She's just dealing with what she wants to live. And she says that to me every single day when she does things on her own, when she couldn't before. All right, bye.